to the Brew Bucks podcast. The podcast for the beer-drinking enthusiasts trying to get better with money. Your hosts, Jake and Alec, interview personal finance creators, speakers, authors, real estate experts, and everything in between. There's nothing quite like having a conversation with your friend while sipping on a cold one. If you're looking to learn more about money without all the fluff and BS, you've found your new home. This is the Brew Bucks podcast. Now your hosts, Jacob Wilhite and Alec Miller.
Welcome back to episode number 45 of Brew Bucks. Alec with me as always. What's up, bud?
Yeah, it's good to be back. But on one hand, I'm always intrigued by where people listen to podcasts. Where do you listen to most of your podcasts?
Definitely while I am running or in the car.
Yeah, I'm mostly in the car too. But I want to know, hey, does anybody listen to us while running? Are we that energetic enough we can keep a beat while they run?
I don't know. Maybe the intro.
Yeah. Then it's downhill. On top of going downhill, we didn't get a question of the week this week. So what should we do?
I understand you've come up with some new game you want to play, Alec.
So I think so. It. Yeah, how'd you know that? So it is called what do you call it? A nay or stay?
I think if it's a nay or it's here to stay.
Nay or it's here to stay. Look at that. I just throw out something that makes it better. So is it nay or is it here to stay? So basically the concept of the game is we're gonna find
a business
company,
story.
Business, maybe just an idea out there that is coming to play in the world, and we're gonna say if it's a nay or talk about if it's here to stay. Or so let's get going. I think the big story lately is Amazon. It's not like Amazon isn't in the news every day anyways, but the big news story they have is called RX Pass. And this is essentially for eligible Prime members. They can spend $5 a month and essentially get whatever medication they want as long as Amazon has it. It definitely beats the expense costs of most medications anywhere else. So what do you think, Jake? Is this a nay or is it here to stay?
I think that Amazon is trying to put their claws into more people. I think it's like 80% of Americans take some type of medication every single day. And so if they can get people to sign up for Prime and get their medication at a much lower discount, and have it all shipped to their door and never have to go to a pharmacy or anything to pick it up, I think that's huge. And I think that's going to ultimately just create more Prime members that never, ever cancel, And so I think Amazon will be losing money on it, on the prescription and the pills. But again, who said, like, Netflix was originally freaking $5 a month. Now it's $20, so who knows what the future looks like in that aspect. But I think even if Amazon's maybe losing some money on the pill side, they're, again, getting people to make it a habit using Amazon services for prescriptions. And so I think it's here to stay for sure.
And I agree with you. I think it's here to stay too. I mean, the medication industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I feel like if Amazon can even grab 5% of that, that's a huge plus for them. I mean, they're gonna roll with it, and I know they're probably gonna dominate this industry eventually going down the line. It's pretty crazy to think that we'll just pull up the Amazon app, be able to order groceries, like toys, books, pills, everything. I mean, eventually it's gonna be all in one thing. How do you compete with that when it's one company?
It's gonna be the first super app. Yeah, for sure.
So cool.
Next week, if you guys like it, maybe we'll cover the news story of Chipotle's new restaurant.
I've heard about this. All bulls, no burritos.
Yep. So let us know.
Yep.
But who do we interview today?
All right. And today we interviewed Zeona. Zeona is from Bigger Pockets, and she's great. Today
she's a Bigger Pockets author. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Bigger Pockets author. She's amazing, and we're going to mostly talk about midterm rentals with her. And if you guys don't know what midterm rentals, it's essentially anything from 30 days to 11 months. And that 30-day is coincidentally one of the name of her book called 30 Days Day. And I think today, if you have any interest in doing some midterm rentals, you're going to take something from today's podcast.
Yep. So not short-term rentals, not long-term rentals, but that nice happy median right between the 30 days to 11 months, as you said, is pretty cool, and a very niche market that's been growing lately. So Zeona's here to tell us all about it. As you know, Alec, many of our listeners have aspirations of investing in real estate, but sometimes it can be difficult and overwhelming to get started.
Well, luckily there's Fundrise. Fundrise is a great option for people looking to dip their toes into real estate.
Fundrise's mission is to use technology to make high-quality real estate investments available to everyone at a low cost. With as little as $10, you can own a small piece of actual physical property.
What a deal. And if you want to join thousands of other people who are making money through real estate, click the link in the show notes and get started with Fundrise today.
Zeona, welcome to the Brew Bucks podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Can't wait to hear about your book and all about you and midterm rentals and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to me. I can tell already, like, you bring a lot of good energy, and I'm very excited for this interview today. So, there you are dancing. See, I knew you had it.
I love it.
I
4K
know.
camera for those on YouTube, like looking sharp. I dig it.
Gotta be.
So, Zeona, as you might know, we're going to start off each show by talking about what type of brew we'll be sipping on. Whether it's a nice cup of coffee or a nice cold beer, there's something different about having a conversation with a drink in your hand. Our goal is to be able to provide some interviews and conversations with awesome guests while not taking ourselves too seriously and most importantly, having some fun along the way. So Alec generally starts this section off, and he's got a cool orange looking beer today.
I do. It is called Queen's Order, and it is brewed by Jester King. They're located in Austin, Texas. And I believe we have had a Jester King beer on before, but not this one. The description of this one is a farmhouse ale brewed with honey and lemon peel, brewed and canned by Jester King Brewery in Austin. Okay, I didn't read the last part. So lemon peel and orange. So let's give it a taste.
Jester King is a super cool brewery out in Austin that I don't know how many acres it's on, but they try to basically grow like all the things that they serve in their restaurants locally, and it's a pretty cool little spot.
I actually like it. It almost tastes like a mimosa. It's really good, like an easy drinkable beer mimosa. I like it. Yeah, it's a good.
That's probably preferable for this time.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. All right, and what do you have over there, Jake?
I did not even get a chance to really look at the can. Alec brought me this last second this morning. It is it's called the Placebo Effect, an American cream ale by Tox Brewing Company. It's got like a cool little frog on it, and then the can is super interesting. I don't know, it looks like something out of like a Marvel movie or something.
This just because the cans, it's like floating brains with.
Yeah, it's like a
I
whole
don't know.
scene. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's see. It's 5%. There's no really description on the can, so I'll
All
just
right,
give it
wing
a
it.
go. I definitely don't get like a lot of the cream that it's kind of saying. Normally I feel like those kind of get like pretty lactosey, but this is actually like pretty dang smooth. So I kind of like this. Not a big
Nice.
normal cream ale guy, but thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
Zeona, what did you bring today? I understand you're feeling a
I'm
little
so
under the weather.
underprepared. Yeah, I'm sick today, guys. So I have water, but usually if I wasn't rushing, today I was rushing a little bit, I would have brewed myself like a whole tea. I'm like a witch and I love herbs and I would have just put a bunch of yummies in there. So that didn't happen today, but I'm here with my cough drop. We're gonna make it work.
I love it.
You're always tea over coffee.
I am. I'm kind of an anxious person. And so if I have coffee, it can make me just like zonk out. I get a little too crazy. So
I can
it's
understand that.
delicious though. Save for special occasions and always decaf. Yeah.
I feel it. Right on. Well,
All right.
thanks again. Cheers. Excited to hang out. So let's hop into this thing. We really kind of like to start off every show by getting to know our guests a little bit better. So specifically, like, what was growing up for you like surrounding the area money?
Yeah. So kind of traumatic, I think is what I would say. So both of my parents were not great with money. My dad had a way of kind of attracting big wins, like windfalls of money, where he would be doing really well, but then he would just blow it all. He just wasn't very mature. And so he would get a lot of toys. He loved toys. And so it was always cars or like a fancy house rental. Or I remember we had like foosball tables and scooters and all kinds of like random shit that he would just blow his money on without being like responsible and thinking about the future. And then my mother was always like really cautious, but also super generous. And so she would just give her money away. So she wanted to help anybody in need. And so that came from a nice place, but it was kind of like in spite of herself. And so I remember even being in college and going like, ooh, she wants to give me money, but like, can she actually afford to do that? Is that a good idea? So not being able to trust that. So yeah, for me, it was very unstable growing up. And I knew I needed to do something different than what I was learning at home.
I think it's interesting too that you realize that both your parents were different ways with money. A lot of times people come on the show and just talk about overall how their family was with money, and not necessarily like, oh, their dad was a spender and their mother was a saver. But it's cool that even at a young age, you could see like your mom was the giver and your dad enjoyed spending his money and enjoying life. So
which one of them did you kind of take money habits after? Are you the spender or the saver?
I don't know. No, I'm like a little Scrooge. I like swim around in my money and count it and I hoard it all. So I am not like either of them.
Cool. So as you got older, I mean, what was next for you? Did you go into higher education? Where'd you go from after high school?
Yeah, so I did go to college, but for me, I started getting into financial education right around high school, and unfortunately took on student loans before I really understood that. I think these days there's so many more options that you don't have to do the default of going to college, especially if you get into real estate, which is what I do now. But for me, it was great that my mother started getting into it and we did it together. So we were watching like Susie Orman's show, which you guys might be too young to know about, and reading her books and just kind of like learning about snowball payments and just trying to like get out of debt.
Yeah, I don't know who Susie Orman is. I'm sorry. So
really?
I don't either. Yeah, I know.
I've never heard of that. Was she on TV or something? She had like a show?
Oh my God. She has like, well, she used to be on TV. I don't know where she is now, but she has like, I don't know, 10, 15 books. They're all of like financial education. She's kind of like a Dave Ramsey, I guess.
Okay.
But
what's her
and
most
I hope you know who
book?
that is.
Oh, we know Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, definitely know the D word for sure.
Yeah, it's not somebody that you would necessarily want to follow once you know a little bit more than the average, but they do have a great role in helping average people get started. And so, grateful for that.
Nice.
Gotcha. So did the student loans kind of hold you back at all, or did you kind of figure out like after school, hey, I want to get rid of these things, I'm trying to get my finances in order? What'd that look like afterwards?
Yeah, so I got myself $50,000 in debt, had an AA degree that meant nothing. And then luckily at that time, I kind of like pivoted, took some time away from school and was getting into massage therapy, which is kind of random. But at that time, I found out about Airbnb. And so that was just going to be this little side hustle for me. And it ended up taking over my whole life. But in that, I found my way out.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Did you kind of stumble into Airbnb like as an investor, or were you kind of helping like do some of the like managing side? Like how'd that process start and how'd you kind of stumble upon it?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a cool thing. One of the things about student loans is that they have you pay so little that you just never really get out of it. So I noticed that I had paid student loans for 10 years and the amount was almost the same. And I was like, oh, this is not going to work. I need to do something else. And so luckily, when I started getting into Airbnb, I had more surplus cash and could actually throw large amounts and help myself get out. But the way I got started with Airbnb was a recommendation from a friend, and he had been doing it after he got laid off from a job. He was living in New York City and had a really expensive apartment. And he's like, I got laid off. I would just want to go travel, but I have this apartment. I need to do something with it. And I'm hearing about this Airbnb concept. This is back in 2011, so really early days. Most people didn't hear about Airbnb until like 2017 or later. So he tested it out and he was going to go travel for a month. He ended up traveling for an entire year, living off of his apartment. And he didn't own this apartment. And so in that year, he was like, oh my God, you have to do this thing. And at the time, I was living across the country in Colorado, where I live now. And I had a 2-bedroom apartment that I was just renting. And I had a roommate move out. And I was like, well, I've got her room furnished. It was all my furniture anyway. I've got sheets and towels. Like, I can literally make this listing. And if I hate it, I just turn it off and I'll get another roommate. So that was the beginning.
So was that person, like as you're renting out that room, was it like just some stranger who would kind of come and go with common areas? Like, I know when people think of Airbnb nowadays, they think of like just mostly renting out a full house, but I feel like in the beginning it was like just renting out a room in your house or something like that. So I guess what was that like?
And you can still do that. You can still rent out a room in your house. People also rent shared spaces. So you can rent the couch in your living room, which I don't know how many people will be excited about renting that, but you can. And I guess people don't know that very often, but it was wonderful. I found that as a traveler, oh my God, I'm going to drop all these things you guys know nothing about, but there was a website before Airbnb called Couchsurfing. And it was a free website where you go and stay on people's couches. You could sleep on their floor, whatever. It was a travelers helping travelers kind of thing. And I had done a ton of that through Europe. And then when I was living in Maui, like so many people wanted to come. And so from like 2006, I was doing this couch surfing thing. So for me to have randoms in my house, I was like, oh, I've been doing couch surfing. This is even better. People are going to pay me. Like I'm all about it. And I just ended up attracting the most interesting people I wanted to go on hikes with and go to dinner with. And it was just like such a cool way to just mingle with travelers.
That's awesome.
I had no idea that was a thing where you could just go rent somebody's couch. That sounds really cool, though. I mean, definitely seemed to set you on like probably your path and mentality for life and made you a very outgoing person, which I can tell. I mean, I'm sure you have some amazing stories, which we don't need to share on the podcast, but it sounds like you're very well traveled and diverse. So that's awesome.
What's the coolest place you've been to?
Probably South Africa. But yeah, I've been to 48 countries. So I've done lots of traveling.
That's awesome. All right, so we figured out kind of where, how you got started in real estate and specifically short-term rentals. Our main topic of the day is all about midterm rentals. So when did that start? When did you discover, hey, this might be an even better option?
Yeah, so I started my Airbnb journey in 2012. It wasn't until 2020 that I got into midterm rental. So in that time, I had been doing Airbnb the whole time. I was managing other people's properties. I had bought a few properties and have accidentally hosted people for a month, but never really thought to look for that type of guest. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, for people that were doing short-term rentals, it kind of killed it for us. All of a sudden, Airbnb was just giving everybody giving them their refunds without asking any questions. And so we were kind of ramping up into our busy season, and then all of the bookings were gone off of our calendars. And that was really shocking for me because I had been in this business for 8 years, and I was going like, okay, well, I'm not just going to have a bunch of properties sitting vacant. I have to do something else. Luckily, right around that same time, I started seeing people making longer bookings. And this was like 2 or 3 weeks, but I started to see, okay, I can see that there might be people wanting to stay longer than that even. And the bookings were people that were coming in for aid relief. They were quarantining. They needed a bigger space for their family because now everybody was like working and going to school from home. So there was just a pivot in the market.
Got it. Okay. And so how does it work kind of transitioning a property from an Airbnb to a medium term rentals? Is it essentially, hey, the living space is pretty much the same, or do you have to like move to a different platform? What is that kind of?
It is pretty similar. The platforms are really determined by who your clientele is going to be. So it's really easy for people if they're already on Airbnb to stay on Airbnb. Airbnb is kind of like, I don't know, it's just a huge funnel. So you can find all kinds of tenants on there. But if you're going for traveling nurses, you want to be on Furnish Finder. If you're going for construction companies or universities, or there's just so many types of tenants, insurance clients, you want to be on their different websites for those things. And so it just really depends on who do you want to serve. Military, like they all have their own kind of websites.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Definitely a wide need for it. And then, I mean, just for anyone listening at home, midterm renters are 3 to 11 months, right? That's
or does
anything over 30 days, which is the name of our book, 30 Day Stay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, or actually, so for your properties that you had as Airbnbs, what was kind of the best way for you to utilize them as a midterm rental, or who was your target audience for most of them?
Yeah. So when I was just getting started, I had 4 properties in St. Louis, and St. Louis has a whole cluster of hospitals all in one area, kind of like a big complex. And then they have a couple of university hospitals. It's just like a really great market for traveling nurses. And the moment I got on Furnish Finder, I realized, wow, there's a real demand. There's just not enough housing for these people. And the type of housing that was available was a lot of like dingy basements and just not like thoughtfully outfitted. They just weren't very attractive. And so it was really easy to come in and kind of make something that was better, especially if you're used to short-term rentals. Nowadays, you have to be like a little more competitive, but when I got started, it was super easy.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Cool. So I guess if somebody's looking to start, where would you recommend they start?
How does someone,
Yeah.
does it start with choosing a market, or what do you recommend?
Yeah. So what's really important in midterm rentals is that you want to go deep in whatever market you choose. So you want to have a certain amount of inventory that helps, because you're building relationships. So if you end up working with an agency that's placing doctors, they want to work with you if you have like 5 or more properties, and you can say like, hey, I'm always going to have some availability, or I know enough people that I can say yes to you every time you have a need. Right. So you're trying to build these relationships. So when you're looking for a market, you want to find something that you want to invest in over time. And so make sure the affordability is there for you to do that. Like, I live in Colorado. Even though I have a few units here, it's really hard for me to buy multiple units. So I knew I had to leave this market. And so if I knew that from somebody just starting out, I would probably say, hey, maybe skip your backyard. If you're living in California, you can make that work. But if affordability is going to be a challenge, go to Cleveland, go somewhere a lot cheaper where you can easily get into 5 properties in the next couple of years.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So how does analyzing a midterm rental differ from maybe like a short-term rental? I know we have things like AirDNA or like Rentometer for long-term rentals. Is there any kind of tools like that to help estimate how much money you're going to bring in, or what you should
Not
price it at?
really. Not really yet. So midterm rentals are still in their infancy. There's a lot of room to grow, and the softwares have not quite caught up. I know Price Labs is starting to do some stuff around pricing for multiple month stays. And then I think Mashvisor is just starting to give some quotes about what you can make with a monthly rental. But basically, the way I tell people to look at it is, if you go on Furnished Finder, which is the primary place that people are going for traveling nurses. If you go on there and you search as if you were a guest, so you put in your city and then say search, and then you can see on the map what people are charging in that area. Know that Furnished Finder is kind of a place where people go for discounts. And so it's going to be a little bit lower. You can charge more than that. And so get an idea of kind of what your conservative number is from Furnished Finder, and then go into AirDNA and get what that short-term rental price is going to be. And what you're trying to do is shoot more towards that. And so you'll have a little bit of a range there to play with, and then know that seasonality is part of it. So you need to learn like what the seasonality is in your area.
Okay. Are there any expenses that differ from midterm rental and short-term rental? Are you still paying all the utilities and, I don't know, electricity, water, all that good stuff?
Yeah, short-term rentals have way more expenses. It's a lot cheaper to do a midterm rental. People are more self-sufficient. So if they run out of shampoo, they're going to go buy some more. And then they usually leave it. And so you've got other supplies there in the house. And you can also just start them off with things. So you could say, we just leave a dishwasher pod and a laundry pod, and we have like 2 rolls of toilet paper, and then you're on your own. So you can do that sort of thing rather than saying, I have to supply you for your entire stay.
Gotcha.
So that does make a difference.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. There's not cleanings and restockings happening every, 2-3 days or whatever it might be. So that's interesting. So just to understand a little bit better, you are working with an agency to hand them their property, and they are finding nurses or whatever it is to stay at these properties. Is that kind of, am I on the right track here?
There's different layers, right? So the very easy way to get started is just doing Airbnb and Furnished Finder. So
Okay.
Furnished Finder is going to be primarily medical professionals, but you can it's just becoming a little more popular as a website in general. So you see a lot of relocation. Sometimes people are doing renovations and they just need a place for a while. I see a lot of students on Furnished Finder. So it's expanding a bit. So between those 2 websites, you could get started. And once you feel really comfortable there, if you want to go a layer deeper, there's a lot of upside if you're going deeper. And that's when you might want to start cold calling and looking into different agencies, checking in at the university, seeing where they're placing their not their doctors, but their teachers. There's so many different avenues where you can find tenants, but it does require a little more legwork. For an example, so I've got a friend who's got a home in Atlanta. His all-in cost on that home is like $2,400 a month. That's his mortgage and all of his utilities. He's able to rent that home for $7,900 a month because it's for an insurance contract with somebody who had maybe a water loss or a fire in their house, something like that. And they're there for 6 months. And so if you're willing to do the work, the money is there, and you're not going to see that just on Airbnb.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's crazy.
So I mean, all of your properties are furnished, right? So how are you going about when you furnish them? And I mean, are you hiring somebody to go furnish them all to make them look nice, or are you going out there and yourself and buying all the couches?
Yeah, you laugh, but I am doing that.
Oh, are you really? Oh, I did not think you were. So
I know I shouldn't be. Yeah, so I have 12 units, 5 of them are unfurnished. I really have, in my like 11 years of being an investor, I've tried all the strategies, and so I maintain some in each category. But for furnishing, like the design is so important that I have kind of kept more control over that. But I think my next evolution is that I need to go, but not actually unbox things. Like I just need to pay somebody from TaskRabbit or Thumbtack, and they like unbox and assemble everything. And I just kind of point and tell them where to go. Yeah. I just did a house, a 4-bedroom house in Atlanta. And my God, it was like an entire week with 3 people, and we were doing everything. So I do not need to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, putting together one IKEA thing just makes you want to kill someone. So putting together a whole house worth is a lot. So
I always forget something. I'm like, where'd this screw go?
Well. So are you? How does the unfurnished properties work? Are they bringing their own mattress or?
No, so those are just long-term rentals. I
Okay,
had
gotcha.
at a certain point got kind of burnt out on short-term rentals, and I was like, you know what? At this stage, I'm just going to buy new construction, because all my homes were like 100 years old and falling apart every which way you could think. And then I was like, I'm just going to do long-term rentals. That's it. I'm like moving out of this space. And so there was a period in 2019 where you could buy new construction that would cash flow awesome. And so I got lucky and bought 5 in that window, and now everything's too expensive. So I'm back to midterm.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes
Gotta
sense.
swerve with the times.
Okay, so maybe like what are some additional things to think about when you're trying to increase occupancy? I know these days, especially in the Airbnb market, it's like you have to have a hot tub, a pool table, a movie theater, a fire pit, all to be successful and be at the top of the occupancy list.
Absolutely.
Is there any additional things like that for midterm rentals or anything different, I guess?
You still have to represent. So you've got to have beautiful furnishings, you've got to have amazing photos, like even in midterm rentals, I'm seeing people doing like murals. So all of that like marketing standout stuff is still really important. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But you don't necessarily need the amenities of like a hot tub and a pool table. Most of these people are coming for work, but I have heard creative stuff. I mean, we try to have desks in all of our places. So if a room is big enough, we'll put a desk in the room as well as a bed. But I heard somebody saying like, oh, they do like a whole setup with like a ring light and all this kind of stuff to kind of attract people that are working from home. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. Yeah. It's hard to know what's going to work well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. I dig it.
So I mean, going back, you're talking about all the positives and how great it is. What are some like the negatives that you've had to deal with when renting out these homes?
Tell some horror
It's
stories.
interesting. Not too many negatives. I think nowadays to compete, you really have to accept people that have pets. And I love pets, but there's a lot of pet owners that are just not that respectful. And so that makes it really hard when you have furnished rentals and pets, because that can mean like chewed up rugs and scratched couches and just kind of damage, right? So trying to vet the right people and hope that it's going to be okay, that part is a little bit stressful. So I always take a guest without a pet over another, but if that's all you have, you got to go for it. But you can charge pet deposits, pet rent, and we definitely do. So It's not too bad, but I'd say that'd be the downside.
Okay. Makes sense. Are you self-managing all your properties?
Yes, and so
Yes, and
I think
okay.
a lot of people think that the only way that you can do short and midterm rentals is to pay a management company like 20-25%. And that's very expensive. I mean, some places they can still make money doing that. Awesome. But what I've realized over time is like you can just hire a VA. You can just get an assistant, right? So I pay somebody by the hour instead of by the percentage, and that makes it so much cheaper. So I do, and I have a lot of help.
Okay.
Just start paying the assistant to go buy some furniture.
They're virtual
I know
assistants
it
now.
adds up, but yes, I'm going to start doing that. I'm just sometimes a bit frugal.
Yeah, that's good to be. So,
So what percentage, if someone did want to use a property manager, is it still the, same type of percentage as like an Airbnb, 20-25%, or have you noticed it's a little bit lower since they're not dealing with as much?
It depends on the service that they're doing. So there are some people that will just do bookings and communication, and that is usually, 10 to 15% if you're just doing that. So if you're happy to coordinate the cleaner and the handyman and stuff like that, then you can have somebody else doing more of the legwork. But generally, if someone wants a manager, they want them to do everything. And I'm seeing that that's 20% or more.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
it's a big ticket. It adds up.
So I think we got to that point where I really want to learn more about your book. So
Yeah.
how did the idea spark? I guess we kind of mentioned that a little bit, COVID and whatnot, but how did you decide, hey, I'm going to write a book about this, to publishing and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I was at the Bigger Pockets conference in 2021, and I'd been thinking about writing a book and kind of talking about it, but didn't know exactly what. I kind of wanted to just do a general book on investing. And then they have a bookstore set up every time at the Bigger Pockets conference. And so I was there and I was looking at all the books, and I'm like, gosh, what have they not done already? Just seems like they've covered every type of real estate there is. And then I thought, oh, midterm rentals, like that was what I was primarily doing at the time, but it seemed so niche. I was like, I don't know, are they even going to be interested in that? It seems like a little too simplistic. But I pitched it and I got Sarah Weaver to come on and help me write it, and they went for it. So what we didn't know is in 2021, almost no one was talking about midterm rentals. We got it out, and the very next year it was insane. I mean, midterm rentals have been all over the news. So I think we timed it really, really well and had no idea.
Gotcha.
Can you talk about, have you been getting some support? Have you got any letters from fans of the book being like, thanks for writing this? I mean, how's that been for you?
That's always the best part, because I'm a digital nomad. So I'm always working from home or traveling. And it's just kind of a one-way street. If you're like on a podcast and you're like, does anybody listen to this? You don't get to interact with people that much. And so it's really nice when you do get those messages from people like, I read your book and then I went out and now I have 3 properties and it's changed my life, or I'm quitting my job or whatever. So really incredible. So if anybody's listening and they want to send me some stuff, DM me. I want to hear about it. It makes my hard days better.
How did the writing process go? Was it like, were you able to knock it out pretty quickly with your co-author, or did it take a while?
They forced us to do it quickly. So we got really lucky. Usually a book takes about 2 years to be published. But we pitched the book in December. So the conference was October. I talked to them there at the conference. And then we went home, we wrote a whole proposal that is a beefy document. Ours is like 60 pages of, what we're going to write and how, and samples of our writing and marketing. And then we send that over to them. And by December, they said yes, but they wanted it done by March.
Wow.
So we started writing in January, and luckily there's 2 of us, so we could split up the book a bit. But yeah, it was full blown blocking out 2 hours a day and trying to just do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you decide that you wanted to do it with a co-author, and what was that experience like? I don't think you see that a ton out there.
Yeah. So Sarah was my roommate at the conference. So I literally pitched it to them, and then I went back to my room and I was like, hey, this is an idea I had. And she had ghost authored a book. And so, or ghost written, basically that's, you write a book, but you don't get your name published, like you do it for somebody. And so she said, like, you know, I have done it, I can do it. And I had attempted to a couple of times and just like failed or psyched myself out or whatever, and never got across the finish line. And so having someone that believed in it and that was like holding me accountable, that I couldn't let down, that meant the whole difference to me. So yeah, I think sometimes you just have to do what works, right? So for me, I needed somebody.
Yeah, seems like
So
everything
I'm
lined up
grateful.
perfectly
Yeah.
at that conference.
I know we need to make it out to BPCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys should.
Yeah.
This year it's going to be in Orlando, and they're going to rent out Harry Potter World as one of the parties. So that'll be pretty awesome.
Oh, that's sweet.
I'm ready to go now.
Mhm.
Do you know when it is?
Yeah, in October. So
October.
they have the dates
I'm
online.
not
I
going.
don't know them right off the top of my head.
Alex getting married October, Friday the 13th.
Yep.
So it might be a tough one.
Yeah,
Cool.
spooky wedding will be fun. So.
I love that.
Well, I guess before our lightning round, one more thing. You also have a podcast, right?
The Investify podcast.
Tell us a little bit about it. What do you talk
Yeah,
about?
so the whole concept is Craig Kurlop is also, he's my co-host. He wrote a book for Bigger Pockets on house hacking. And I'm very into house hacking myself, but I use Airbnb as my house hack. So we have a little bit of a different take on it, but we primarily interview house hackers, but sometimes it's just any kind of real estate people. And we talk about their journey on how they are achieving financial independence through real estate investing. So yeah, we think that's the quickest way, and we want to help people do it.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, any last minute tips for someone looking to get started in medium term rentals before our lightning round?
Yeah, I would say pick up our book. The quickest way to read a book is to listen to it. So we do have it on Audible. But what I love about our book is that we really wanted to make it actionable. And we wanted to say, like, if somebody's never heard of the strategy, they could pick up the book, they could buy a rental by the end of it, and they would have all the tools and the resources they needed. So I really do think that we achieve that. So yeah, I think that would be the best way.
30-day stay. It's such a good name too. I'm a sucker for rhyming. So
thank you. Yeah, we had a different name, and thank God Bigger Pockets changed it. So, you know, good.
And then, are you reading the book yourself, or who's reading it on Audible?
No. You know, we auditioned, this fun fact. We auditioned to be the authors, like not the authors, the speakers. I don't know, the reader of the book, and they turned us down. They're like, yeah, no. I know. I know. If I do another book with them, it's going to be like in my contract. I'm like, you must let me read it.
Yeah, what
yeah.
the heck?
I could listen to your voice. So.
They're letting Brandon Turner
Thank
do it
you.
with his lisp, like, you know. Like,
I know. Well, people are so attached to Brandon now, but yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, let's do this lightning round. Alex, start us off. What we got?
All right, cool. Well, Zeona, what is your favorite beer or beverage?
I think we got this one.
Interesting. I know. I kind of wanted to come up with a favorite beer. I'm really into sours. Do you guys know Avery? Yeah. I live here in Boulder, and we've got Avery Brewing Company here, and they have a Lilikoi kind of sour beer that I like a lot. So,
cool.
Yeah.
I love sours. So,
but I am an old-fashioned girl, so if we're just saying drinks, that's what I'm doing.
Oh, that's my go-to cocktail too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you can't pick your own book, but what is your favorite book?
You know, I think favorites are super hard because I read so much, but one that I was really into recently was Will Smith's book. It's called Will. And like, damn, I didn't know how much stuff that guy did in his life. It's crazy. So highly recommend. And he reads it. So get the Audible, because he was like a rapper for the first part of his career, and he raps certain parts. It's like awesome. So
That's
good.
Cool. All
really
right.
inspiring.
Waiting for him to come back as a rapper. We need Will Smith rap again.
Dig it.
Cool. What is your favorite place you have visited or place you want to visit next? I mean, it sounds like you visit most of the world, so it might be tough to decide a place you want to visit next.
Lots of places. We're also getting married this year. And we're gonna go to Bali. That's our honeymoon spot. And so I haven't been there before, which is random because it's such a digital nomad hub. So many of my friends go in and out of Bali all the time. But the reason we wanted to go there is I really wanted to pick a place where I could go and just feel like money was no object, like you don't want to go on your honeymoon and be like scrimping. I'm like, no, get me the tree house. I want to do all the things. And Bali's just super cheap. So that'll be great.
I might need to consider that.
Yeah. Have you decided on your honeymoon yet?
No.
No.
I kind of want to do Japan, but yeah.
It'd be cool too.
Japan is awesome. Yeah.
All right. Last one, the biggest one. What does retirement look like / mean to you?
Yeah, I would not say I'm retired now. I have hit financial independence so many times in different ways, but right now I am working a bit. I mean, putting out a book is no small feat. But retirement for me is really just about having space and time to do whatever I want. I think I'm always going to want some kind of project to tinker on, but definitely working like 2 to 4 hours a day, a couple days a week, like that seems super chill. That's what I'm thinking.
Cool. I dig it.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do to fill your time? Are there any passion projects other than real estate that you like to do?
What? Is there something else but real estate? Yeah, my husband and so we got married last year at the courthouse for taxes. So we call him husband, but like we're getting a real wedding this year.
Gotcha.
So very confusing. But we both really love to surf. And so our plan is to be like, oh, let's go stay somewhere like Mexico where you can literally see the surf spot like out the window and be like working and then be like, oh, are there waves today? And just go out and surf like 100 days a year, So that's what we're kind of thinking is just, lifestyle.
That's epic. I love that. Where's the favorite place you've ever surfed?
Well, I'm from Maui. So
Okay.
I have to say Maui's my favorite.
Yeah, it's hard to top that.
That's awesome. You're from Maui?
Mhm.
Wow, that's cool. What made you decide to leave?
It is super small towny.
Yeah,
People don't
it
think
is.
about that because they're just thinking about like, oh, tropical resorts and all that stuff. But it's like, it's kind of like living in just like, I don't know, a really
It is.
small, like nowhere, middle of America kind of place. So yeah.
Feel
It is
trapped on
small
an
town,
island.
yeah,
so.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I
one more
think-
time, I guess, where can people find you?
Yeah. So I have my website, ZeonaMcIntyre.com. Instagram is a great place. And then I'm on YouTube. So everything is Zeona McIntyre. Yeah.
Sweet. And then your book, they can find it.
Yeah, biggerpockets.com/30-day stay. And if you use code Zeona, you get 10% off.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, little secret.
I love it. Sweet,
Yeah.
Zeona. Well, thank you again for coming on and sharing about this topic. It's something I know I've been interested in learning more about lately, and I love your energy and really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a fantastic interview. Really appreciate meeting you today.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Take care. Alrighty, Alec, what did you think of our friend Zeona? Definitely the coolest name we've had on the podcast so far.
Oh yeah, Zeona. It's a great name. I think it's cool that we had an established author. It's cool that her book 30-Day Stay became such a big success. And I think it's pretty crazy that I feel like midterm rentals has definitely blown up so much in the past few years. I think a lot of people aren't sure if they should get into it. And I mean, I think after listening to her today, it's definitely an open opportunity for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely not as saturated as the short-term rental market. I think we definitely saw a boom with it over COVID, but I think as a lot of places are choosing to let people work from anywhere, I think it'll probably be something that stays around. I don't see it really going anywhere. So I think it's kind of, like you said, an open market for people to be able to get into,
Yeah.
And yeah, I have not read the book yet, but I literally have it saved and downloaded, already purchased, and I think I'm going to have to do that after this. So
Yeah. And if you haven't, go out and buy it too. And then did you hear about the giant inflatable house that's been touring the country that you can actually rent out?
God, is this a joke? What?
Oh, it's pretty expensive to rent out, and it's due to inflation.
Oh my God.
You guys thought I forgot my joke, but I did not today.
There it is at the end. All right. On that note, once again, thanks for listening to the Brew Bucks podcast. My name is Jacob.
And I'm Alec.
Signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Brew Bucks podcast. Produced by your favorite financial coaching company, Left Coast Finance. If you're looking for help building a personal financial roadmap, or you just want to talk about great beer, and who doesn't, head over to leftcoastfinance.com.